Hi, it's Amy. So why are you here? Are you a sex offender? Have you thought about becoming a sex offender? Well, I'm here to help you. Not to become a sex offender, but to stop from being one or continuing to be one. I know you don't want to think about yourself that way. It's pretty awful, right? But don't get caught up in the verbiage. Get caught up in what I'm trying to tell you. You'll forgive me, but I'll be using notes. It's best, trust me. We're going to be doing a program in modules based on a program that I taught in a state prison. It's recommended that you listen to all the lessons in every module as they build on one another, as you might expect. As I said in the intro video, that I was going to try to keep these videos to less than 30 minutes. And I've rethought that, and I'm going to try to keep them to less than 15 minutes, except for maybe today because we're doing some orientation. But it's a lot of information to absorb, and I want to hold your attention. Initially, we will have videos that act as an overview to the entire program, and then we will get deeper into each topic as we go along. We will cover cognitive restructuring, which is a fancy way of saying that we're going to try and change the way that you think. We'll talk about identifying your feelings about your life story. I'll do an intro into the deviant offense cycle and relapse prevention. We will cover needs and issues, healthy sexuality, which will include a discussion on STDs and proper condom use. We'll talk about interpersonal relationships. We will talk about empathy. We will talk about stress management and assertiveness training. You need to learn the difference between being assertive and being aggressive. Then we will talk about advanced relapse prevention, and we'll also talk about moral reasoning, which I promise you has no religious component to it, okay? Some things you're going to need to accept before we move forward. You're going to have to accept that there are some good things about you in spite of your behavior. That might be tougher than you think to accept. I teach from the point of view that you are good people who have done some bad things, maybe some very bad things. But if I don't use that approach, that you at the core you are a good person, then you can't trust that I really want what's best for you and best for everyone. And that's precisely what I want. It's my belief that it is possible for people to change their behavior, but you have to be honest with yourself. You're also going to have to accept the fact that abuse is not just in physical form, but it is also emotional harm. And sometimes that is far worse than physical abuse. It is longer lasting. Accept the fact that sexual crimes come from a cycle of behavior, which we will get into in further videos. Accept the fact that many of you, or I would say all of you, use denial and defense mechanisms in order to deal with the truth and reality about your behavior. And that includes minimizing your behavior, saying, I only touched her, or I only did it once, or I didn't rape her, I only touched her. Any of those kinds of things are a minimization of your behavior. Accept that there is not what you would call a cure. Just the same as recovering alcoholics see themselves as being in a constant state of recovery. Even if they haven't had a drink in 30 years. You have to kind of see yourself the same way because you have to be vigilant or you too can fall off the wagon, so to speak. Accept that having no more victims needs to be your long-term goal. Accept that victims go beyond the person who you've harmed. Their friends and their family, and for that matter, your friends and your family are also victims. People who have not even encountered your victim are potential victims because they are going to have to deal with the fallout from the way your victim is suffering when they encounter your victim. Accept that you have also hurt yourself. Not to take a victim stance, I'm just saying, accept the fact that you are hurting yourself while you are doing this. My approach is informative and it is non-judgmental. I try and maintain a good sense of humor, even considering the topics, because I feel like it is important. Some material may be explicit at times, but I will never be vulgar. Sorry. I worked with the toughest, most resistant inmates who had done unspeakable things. I can definitely help you. The beauty of this is that it is basically anonymous. Unless you'd like to leave questions or comments below, it is basically anonymous. You're here because you recognize that you have a problem, that you may have a problem, or you know for sure that you do. You also want to make a change in your life so that you don't continue to do things that hurt others or hurt yourself. We will identify and target for change the cognitive, the way you think, and behavioral patterns that may have already resulted in sex offending. Let me say on that topic that there are varying degrees of sex offense. There is touching, there is rape, there is intimidation, there is coercion, there are all kinds of things. And I'm not going to get into this is worse than that, this is better than that, because we need to look beyond the act and focus on the underlying issues. We are here to solve problems. And on that topic, I would also like to say that these lessons should never be misconstrued as having sympathy for sex offense or sex offenders, although some of you were victims yourself. But it shouldn't be misconstrued as some kind of sympathy for sex offenders. After all, I don't have your file. I don't know what you've done. I'm trying to make sure that you have no more victims. That's my goal. It's also my goal for people to have healthy lives, and that includes you. As I said in my previous video, my intro to my intro, much of what we'll be discussing can be translated into lessons for any kind of addictive behavior, especially when we start discussing patterns and abuse cycles. You will be surprised you do have a cycle. Many things that we'll be discussing, like I said before, will be just valuable life lessons that are universal, good for anybody, even if you haven't committed an offense. If you have a victim, I'm going to tell you now you need to cease contact with that victim. And that is by phone, that is by letter, that is by email, that is by social media, anything. And that includes any kind of stalking on social media. You need to stop that. And it also includes any third-party contact. I don't want you telling a friend to tell your victim something. I don't want you getting in touch with a relative of your victim to tell them something. No contact. You should also not be in possession of any pornography or looking at any pornography. And that includes pictures of your victim. That needs to stop. One other rule about any comments or questions that are left below here or on my Facebook page of the same name. Are you ready for this? Anything that is abusive, any abusive language or name calling, I'm not tolerating. It's not the place for that. Nowhere is the place for that, but certainly not here. Most people want to know why they do what they do and how they can stop doing it. I'm only asking that you give this a chance. Try not to become frustrated and don't give up. There are no simple answers or solutions for why people do what they do. I will give you some assignments for you to do on your own that will definitely give you some further insight. We need to start with an understanding of what you need to do in order for this to work. First of all, you're going to need to make an investment of time and effort. You've made an effort, you're going to be making an effort in yourself and in your future. You've already put plenty of energy into being abusive or harmful. So you can definitely put some time and effort and an investment into stopping it. First, you're going to have to be responsible. If you're responsible, people can count on you, and that's a good thing, right? Your responsibility to others is very important. It's a process. The next thing you're going to need is accountability. You have to answer for your actions, period. We're all ready to be accountable when we do something great. Not so much when we do something wrong. We are ready to take credit for successes and accomplishments in a heartbeat, but not for when we screw up. You have to be accountable for all your actions and all your behaviors, not just the convenient ones. Part of being accountable is understand your actions and being able to explain why you've done what you've done. So all of these components, making an investment, being responsible, and being accountable, have to all fit together. You also have to be willing to participate in this, even if we're doing it this way online and not in person. You have to demonstrate some motivation. I'm going to give you a list of different kinds of sexual behaviors. Some of these are criminal, some of these are not. Some of these are deviant and some are not. And we will get to later what is considered deviant and what is not considered deviant. First of all, there is fetishism, and that is an interest in an object like a bra or shoes or underwear. It's often misused. If you like women with big asses, that's a preference. It's not a fetish, okay? Voyeurism, peeping on people, sexual spying on others when they don't know they are being watched. That is a crime, and it is deviant. Exhibitionism, exposing your penis to somebody, exposing your body in a sexual way to somebody against their will. That is deviant, and it is a crime. Frottage, which are indecent liberties, rubbing up against somebody or against their will. That is also a crime. It is also deviant. You're on a crowded elevator, you're on a crowded subway, and you rub up against somebody by accident, on purpose. That is frottage. Telephone scatology, and that is making obscene phone calls, anonymous obscene phone calls, which doesn't happen. I don't even know that it happens anymore because of caller ID. But it is against the law, and it is deviant. Zoophilia, better known as bestiality, that is a crime, and it is deviant. Transvestism is neither a crime nor deviant, okay? That is dressing up as the opposite of your assigned sex, and it is not necessarily for sexual pleasure, but it can be. We'll get into more of that later. Transsexualism, also not deviant or a crime. You need to understand that. And transsexualism is your sexual identity that is inconsistent with your assigned sex. Some, not all people who are trans have the desire to either partially or fully transition into who they know they are. But please keep in mind that it is not deviant and it is not a crime. And we will also get into that more later. Necrophilia, sex with a dead person, crime. Sexual sadism, the recurrent urge or behavior involving acts in which you are inflicting pain or humiliation on someone. If there is a victim, an unwilling participant, that can be a crime and be deviant. Pedophilia, which another term that people often misuse. This is desiring or having sexual contact with children, and exclusively with children, not a one-off offense. True pedophiles are not able to have adult sexual relationships. And this is not an interest in teenagers, that's hebephilia, and most people use the word pedophilia wrong, and we'll get into more of that later also. Masochism, that is gaining sexual, and pedophilia, crime and deviant. Masochism, gaining sexual excitement through suffering, either physical suffering or humiliation. Partialism is exclusive focus on one part of the body. Partialism is a sexual interest with exclusive focus on one part of the body. Neither of those are deviant or crimes. There are other sexual interests or behaviors like coprophilia, which is the use of feces for sexual gratification, urophilia, which is the use of urine, or clismophilia, which is the use of enemas for sexual pleasure. None of those are considered deviant, and none of those are crimes. No judgment here, folks. Okay? All right. So, and we'll also talk about those again. But here's an assignment for you. I talked about the fact that you had made an investment in committing a sexual offense. Some people don't see this as a tangible thing. So let's put this in perspective. Think of it as a financial investment, and then you can add it up in dollars and see what it's already cost you. For instance, make a list, all right? How much time have you missed from work due to your offense that you may have committed? Have you paid or given gifts to your victim, either as coercion or to shut them up, like some people? Have you taken time or money to destroy any evidence of your offense? Have you ever moved to avoid detection or trouble? How much money have you spent on porn? If you're old school, buying videos or DVDs. I understand it's on the internet. You don't have to really do that anymore. I get it. But in the past you may have. Or adult entertainment. How much money have you spent on that? If you've already been in trouble for this, how much have you spent on court costs, attorneys? How much have you spent on treatment in the past? How much have you spent on drugs or alcohol? Oftentimes, sex offense and drugs and alcohol go hand in hand, although drugs and alcohol are never an excuse. So add that up. See how much of an investment you've already made. Now be willing to make that same investment, if not more so, in stopping this behavior. On my Facebook page of the same name, as I said, are you ready for this? I'm going to be leaving another assignment, which is easy and short, but that is also another place where you can leave comments or questions. Please subscribe so that you can keep up with the program. Feel free to leave comments or questions below. I will be notifying you when there is a Twitter account and an Instagram account, when those are added. I gotta stay current on the interwebs. You're gonna feel good about this program. You're gonna feel energized about making some changes in your life. And then you are gonna come to a point where you're frustrated and probably pissed off with me and you wanna give up. Don't. Next time, we're gonna talk about what makes you different. Until then, I'm really proud of you for being here. All right? Be well.